nonprofit Honey Jam and also co-promoter of the Hard Talk Forums. One of our goals at Honey Jam is to bring awareness to the community for resources out there, and one of the easiest ways to do that is through our elected officials. And a lot of people feel like our elected officials are out of reach and not accessible, but that couldn't be further from the truth. So today, to show that, we have Virginia Delegate Amanda Batten, and joining her is her legislative aide, Dale Britton. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll start with you. If you could tell us about yourself and how you got into politics.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me today, and thank you for putting this together. I am Amanda Batten. I'm the delegate in Virginia's 96th House District, so portions of James City and York counties. And I came to be involved in politics because I started out as a volunteer. My son was getting older. I wanted to figure out a way to kind of get involved with my community, and it happened to be an election year. So I showed up at a meeting. I said those fateful words that, I'm here for the first time and I'm happy to volunteer. And as they say, one thing led to another, but for me it was a path where my son got older, went to school. I was looking to re-enter the workforce after having been out for a while. And since I'd been actively volunteering in politics, I was offered a job in a legislative office. So worked as a legislative aide for the better part of a decade for Virginia State Senator, Senator Tommy Norman, who also represents this area, and then for Delegate Brenda Pogge, who was my predecessor in the House of Delegates. When my previous boss, Delegate Pogge, decided to retire, she asked me to run for the seat, and so after some consultation with my family and some prayer, I decided to go for it, and I was fortunate enough to be elected last year in 2019. I say fortunate enough, but I don't know, 2020 has been a little bit rough, so maybe it wasn't all that fortunate. But I'm happy to share a little bit about some of the resources that our office provides. As you said, I think a lot of folks look at their elected officials as being unapproachable, or I think we also tend to view them through a partisan lens. We think about the big, hot button issues that are out there, and we look at party affiliation, and that's kind of where we tend to stop viewing them. The reality is that in Virginia we have a part-time legislature in the Senate and in the House, and so most of what we do is not really dealing with issues on a daily basis. It's more dealing with constituent service. As I said, we have a part-time legislature, which is where the role of a legislative aide, Dale Britton, comes into play. Although I am a part-time member of the legislature, Dale is actually a full-time employee of the House of Delegates, working for me. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about constituent service, but since I was a legislative aide myself for a number of years, I know very well what that entails. And honestly, you'd be surprised, but probably pleasantly, if you knew just the variety of issues that we can assist with. Everything from, there's a pothole on my street, or the stop sign's down at the end of the road, so we call the Department of Transportation, we can help with that. If you go to the DMV and the line is 7 miles long and you get to the window and they say, oh, I'm sorry, we told you the wrong information to bring, and you're frustrated and it's hard for you to get back, we can help expedite that process for you. If you have a consumer complaint, our office has a liaison with the Virginia Attorney General's office, and we can kind of push that complaint forward and monitor it for you. And even there's areas in the state that we don't have direct oversight of, we typically have some sort of liaison in that particular organization. If you take Dominion Energy, for example, they're obviously not a state agency, but they have a government affairs person on their team, and so if you call and you have an issue, say with your power company, or a billing dispute that can't be resolved, or your power is just not working properly, we have someone that we can call, and we can kind of put some pressure on them as well, to provide better customer service. And same with Cox Communication. Dale can attest to this. With everyone working from home lately, there's been a lot of reliance and strain, I would say, on that internet connection. And she's been able to contact a government affairs liaison at Cox Communications, and they've been able to assist as well. So. I want to turn it over to Dale, though, because she does do the bulk of the interaction with our constituents right now, and does a great job at it. So I do want to give a shout out to Dale, because technically in Virginia, your legislative aid is 365 days a year. There's not actually like holidays technically written in there. Now, there's pros and cons, because I guess it's a flexible schedule, if you will, but Dale can also attest to the fact that constituents, if you're in a crisis of any type, you're gonna call, you're gonna reach out, you're gonna do whatever you have to do to try to address that immediate need. And our office, Dale is really here to help. So with that, Dale, if you wanna share a little bit about what we do.
Sure. Yes, so if you call Delegate Batten's office, I will be the person who gets the phone call or gets the email, and then I go from there. And they, like Amanda said, it can be any kind of question. Literally, Dominion left too many rocks on the end of the street in my neighborhood that or my recycling bin didn't go out on time. I mean, the whole gamut. Now, obviously, this year was the Employment Commission.
Right.
Hundreds of people calling about their unemployment issues, their claims, where are they? So that's kind of been a continual, nonstop thing. But most of our liaison people are pretty responsive. So, for example, I was starting to say that I got a call from somebody who said, I tried to contact Department of Vital Records, and because I don't have birth certificate, my baby was born in February. So I had to go and find out exactly who that person was. So you might have to go to, the Department of Health. You might have to dig a little bit for the actual person that can get you the results quickly, but they do. And within a day, I had an answer for him. And sometimes they call the constituent directly when they answer it, and then they follow up with me, or then I called him back to make sure he got his answer. He's good. So those kind of things, people are very appreciative of. That he had already tried and couldn't get through. DMV is another one with all this pushback on, you can't go, we're making appointments, but they're not for 6 months, and my license is going to expire, and the DMV was great. They got everybody in, and they were really wonderful. So you really can help people with a lot of things, and it's, most of the time it's pretty smooth, to get that done. But yeah, I'm that person.
We're probably setting you up for a terrible flood of phone calls, but
I really enjoy that part of it though, because you can get good results for people, and you can be really helpful to people, which is really important, and that's kind of why we're here.
And that's your main job. That's pretty much all you do is handle constituent.
That's
it.
the main focus of the job. I would say that's your most important thing, right? I would say that.
Because when we're in the legislative session, it's a little bit different then. So Dale's kind of tracking down, bills and making sure that the calendar is squared away. But she's also still dealing with those constituent issues. So constituent issues are, 24/7 kind of a deal. But then there's, surges, I would say, in our workload that are legislative related. But I think the good thing about state level as well is, to Dale's point, they are very responsive. I think when we think about the federal government especially, we think long, slow, tedious, maybe you'll get an answer in a few months. I mean, with a lot of agencies, not necessarily the Employment Commission right now because of the overwhelming number they've had, but we typically can get response for you within a couple business days at most. So we try to be very, prompt in addressing whatever concerns folks have.
So what brought this meeting about was we actually met, Amanda came to one of our Hard Talk forums, which we address the racial divide in our country. And afterwards she contacted us to see what she could use her position to foster change for those purposes. So in our meeting, we brought up the issue of child support and the issues that a lot of fathers get put into jail or in other situations due to not being able to pay. And that's how this all came about, is the resources out there. So what would somebody do in that situation where they're trying their best? What is their best advice for somebody that's trying their absolute best, but they just can't make it for whatever reason, whether it be, what if they lost their job due, in this situation right now, I mean, this is a great example, if they lost their job due to COVID, and, they're in a situation where they don't, they want to pay, they can't, and don't want to end up in jail. What good does that do anybody? The person is in jail.
Sure.
So that's how really all this came about. And so what would do you have any suggestions for that person? What they would do for...
I'll start, and I think Dale can address this as well. So one thing, we're not allowed to provide legal advice to someone
Right.
because neither of us are attorneys, and also you run into a little bit of a conflict there where if I give you legal advice and I pass a law, obviously there's a little bit of conflict of interest. So preface it by saying that, but we do, depending on what your situation is, we do have some resources that we can turn to. I think I mentioned maybe when we met earlier, the Virginia Poverty Law Centers out there. They're actually really helpful in situations like that. They also have a government affairs liaison, so there's someone that we can call directly and share with them, you know, whatever our constituent is comfortable, you know, relaying on to essentially a stranger. And they're really good at providing some of those resources. You know, as far as you mentioned the Attorney General's office earlier, you know, you can get recommendations for attorneys and representation there. And just kind of depending what the situation is, we're able to work with folks on a case-by-case basis. So, and again, we're in a strange time right now because the courts are sort of shut down and things like that. So there's a little bit of lag there, I would say, as well, as far as, I know we talked about this and this is a legal matter, but you know, if you have an extenuating circumstance where you can no longer meet your child support obligations, you do have that, you know, option where you can go before the courts again, and they will reevaluate you based on your current situation, and then come up with a, you know, payment plan that's actually workable. But that's a little bit slowed down right now just because of everything being closed. So I'll let Dale speak to that.
No, that's what I would I would definitely say I could help in some way with that. I would just have to find the exact person to talk to, and that might take a little bit. Like I'd probably start out in the Attorney General's office, and then they might move me around. And then again, like how much can you share?
Right. How much are you willing to share? Right. At that point, you're probably willing to share anything.
And we're not gonna leave you hanging. I think that's the other thing that's
Yeah.
important to know. I mean, if we get to a point where we can no longer help you for some reason, I mean, if you still have like an outstanding legal case, that's not an area where we're able to intervene. But we will do absolutely everything that we can. And for the most part, people are I think fairly satisfied at the end of that process that their concern has been assuaged and, you know, they're moving towards some sort of positive resolution.
Yeah, and it's just good to know that somebody cared enough to try, I think, in a lot of cases, so, this is really great information,
And
so.
the other thing I'd say there is, you know, we don't care what your political affiliation is, so when someone contacts our office, we don't know, we don't care, we don't ask, and it doesn't matter. I don't care how you voted, and hopefully you don't care how I voted, because we're gonna help you regardless of that. So we always want folks to know that as well.
Right, so, any other ideas? So basically, call Dale.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing too, is that even if it's something with which we cannot assist, like it's a federal issue, like your passport, we've had some issues there, or if it's a local issue, you know, like trash service or something, we will make sure that we connect you with the appropriate liaison on those levels as well.
Right.
So we'll get you to your county representative or whomever you need to speak to. If it's a law enforcement issue, we can't help with that, but we will certainly, you know, connect you with the appropriate liaison there. And then on the federal level, there's a Dale that exists, you know, in the congressional level as well.
We send people there.
So, yeah, so we will make sure that we pass that on and follow up as well. So once we hand you off to that person, we don't just, you know, say goodbye. You know, we try to make sure that actually the issue is resolved.
What rewarding jobs, both of you. I mean, I hope you enjoy it. It sounds like you do. So, but tell people how to contact you. Dale.
Dale can go and then.
Well, the email is just info@amandabatten.com, and that'll come to, and I pick up that email, or 757-741-7001.
I think our website, we still have a form on there too, amandabatten.com. And there's like a contact form on there. That also goes to Dale.
To the website, to my email.
And then we have a Facebook where if you send a private message, we don't accept messages where we write you back in Facebook because we want to make sure that we have it in writing and you know with whom you're corresponding. So those messages actually are also delivered to our email account so we can kind of privately correspond with folks.
Okay.
So however you want to get in touch with us, we're happy to help.
Thank you, and we'll share that again in print. So thank you so much. And if you can, like us on Facebook or check out Honey Jam. We have upcoming events listed, and like and share, spread the word. Thank you for joining us today, and onward and upward. See you next time.